What makes this story so compelling is not actually the imagined meeting between Emmanuel Macron and Alex Eala. It is the emotional architecture underneath it. The reason the script feels powerful is because it taps into something real that already exists around Eala's rise. The sense that she has become larger than tennis for many Filipinos around the world. That is the emotional truth carrying the entire narrative forward, and that is why even the most dramatic moments feel believable on an emotional level, even if they are fictionalized. The opening immediately establishes scale in a cinematic way. The president of France does not typically attend tennis matches before the finals is a strong hook because it creates tension before the audience even knows where the story is going. It implies that something unusual, perhaps historic, is happening before a single tennis point has been played. That is effective storytelling structure. You are using institutional behavior to signal importance. The audience understands instantly that if a head of state is quietly appearing at a practice session, then the athlete being watched must represent something extraordinary. Then you transition into the image of an almost empty French Open practice court, freshly rolled clay, quiet stands, a lone figure observing from the front row. Visually, this is excellent. It feels like a sports film opening scene. The silence matters because your entire script revolves around contrast. The silence before the explosion. The empty stadium before the flags arrive. The unnoticed practice before global recognition. You consistently return to that structure throughout the piece, and it gives the narrative momentum. One of the smartest things in the script is that you do not initially portray Eala as a dominant champion. You portray her as a force of emotional gravity. That distinction is crucial. The line about her ranking rising from 42 to 38 after Rome grounds the story in enough reality to make the larger emotional mythology feel plausible. You also mention actual competitive details. Defeating Magdalena Frech, defeating Wang Xinyu, losing competitively to Elena Rybakina. Those details matter because they anchor the emotional narrative in recognizable tennis progression instead of pure fantasy. The audience subconsciously trusts the story more because the tennis journey feels structurally authentic. The Eala effect framing is also very effective because it transforms fandom into atmosphere. Instead of describing statistics or sponsorships immediately, you describe flags, chants, noise, diaspora, emotion, crowds, turning tournaments into homecomings. That is smart because sports fandom is emotional before it is analytical. Most viewers do not remember ranking points. They remember how an athlete made a stadium feel. Your script understands that. The repeated imagery of Filipino workers abroad is probably the strongest emotional pillar in the entire narrative. Nurses, caregivers, engineers, overseas workers living far from home. This gives the story emotional stakes beyond sport. You are essentially framing Eala as an emotional representative of migration and sacrifice. That is why the fictional Macron scene works symbolically. He is not really reacting to forehands. He is reacting to what she represents socially. That distinction is important because otherwise the script risks becoming unintentionally absurd. If a president appears solely because a player practiced well, audiences disconnect. But when the script frames it as recognition of an invisible community suddenly feeling visible through sports, the emotional logic becomes much stronger. The line, "They are often invisible, but you have made them visible," is probably one of the most important lines in the piece. It reframes the entire narrative from sports celebrity into social recognition. That is the exact moment where the story stops being about tennis and becomes about identity. The strongest recurring theme throughout your script is visibility. You return to it repeatedly. Invisible workers, unseen sacrifice, diaspora, recognition, finally being acknowledged, being represented on a world stage. That thematic consistency is why the script feels emotionally coherent despite its enormous scale. Another thing you do very well is pacing emotional escalation. Notice how the script moves. Quiet practice session, whispers in the stadium, private meeting, press conference, government announcement, WTA, shock, Filipino diaspora, reaction, public, emotional climax, outside, Roland Garros. That is extremely deliberate escalation. Each scene widens the scope. Personal, institutional, international, emotional, historical. This is the structure of prestige sports documentaries and modern Netflix-style sports storytelling. You are essentially writing sports mythology. However, the biggest challenge with the script is credibility management. Right now, The narrative voice presents every event as confirmed reality. That creates risk because viewers may believe Macron actually announced a €750,000 grant. WTA officials actually reacted this way. Specific conversations actually occurred. Direct quotes are real official meetings happened. If this is intended as dramatic fiction inspired by real themes, then the solution is not reducing emotion. The solution is framing. You can preserve nearly all the emotional power simply by shifting the language slightly. Imagine if it felt as though one could almost picture, in a moment that symbolized, the scene resembled. Those tiny adjustments maintain cinematic storytelling while avoiding accidental misinformation. The script also occasionally overstates scale to the point where it weakens its own strongest moments. Phrases like, "The entire tennis world froze," "The WTA scrambling," "The whole sport changed," "Millions in tears," "The world stopped," become less powerful when repeated too often. Interestingly, your quieter lines are actually stronger emotionally. For example, "You are the reason I kept fighting," or "I haven't won anything yet." Those lines work because they sound human. They contrast with the epic narration around them. That contrast is where the emotional magic happens. One of the best structural choices you make is repeatedly emphasizing that Eala has not yet won the tournament. This is incredibly important narratively because it shifts the story away from achievement and toward meaning. The audience begins understanding that the point is not whether she wins Roland Garros. The point is what she already represents before stepping on court. That is actually a very sophisticated sports storytelling idea. Most sports narratives are win, recognition your script proposes, representation, connection, recognition, legacy. That inversion is what gives the story originality. The comparison to historical sports symbolism is implicit throughout the piece. You are placing Alex Eala into the tradition of athletes who became emotional symbols larger than their sport. Muhammad Ali, Serena Williams, Rafael Nadal, Lionel Messi, not necessarily because of pure results alone, but because entire populations emotionally attach themselves to what those athletes represented culturally. The diaspora component especially gives your story unique emotional territory that many tennis documentaries lack. Tennis coverage often focuses heavily on luxury, prestige, and elite competition. Your script instead focuses on migration, labor, homesickness, sacrifice, recognition, emotional belonging. That gives the piece warmth and humanity. The most powerful paragraph in the entire script might actually be this idea: sport at its highest level is not really about sport at all. It is about the story the sport is being used to tell. That line explains the entire phenomenon. It explains fandom itself. People rarely cry because of forehands or rankings. They cry because athletes become containers for emotion, identity, memory, and hope. And that is ultimately why this script works. Not because the political event feels realistic. Not because the tennis details are perfect. Not because every dramatic statement lands. It works because underneath all the cinematic narration is a very human idea. People desperately want to feel seen. And your version of Alex Eala becomes the symbol of that feeling.